Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome General Manager, DevOps, CA Technology, Mike Madden.
Hi everyone and good morning. Welcome to CA World. I hope you guys enjoyed this morning's session. I know it was pretty inspiring for me, and hopefully it's super clear that we are just all in on the application economy. And there's no better place to be than DevOps. This is really where it all comes together, guys. All the good things that are happening, all the ways to transform your business are sitting right here. So over the course of the next few minutes, I'd just like to go take a little bit of a different tour back into digital disruption, talk a little bit about how DevOps relates to digital disruption, and talk about some of the absolutely incredible things we're doing in our product portfolio. So let's get started. I have an opportunity to meet with a lot of customers and a lot of partners, and we end up going through all different variants of DevOps strategies. And at some point in the conversation, it always turns to why. Why are we doing DevOps? What's the objective? And I hear a ton of different things. Sometimes people will tell me speed, got to go faster, can't get enough software out the door. Other people will say reliability. Sometimes it's ROI or revenue. I even hear, because my manager's making me do it, but don't tell him. Well, some of you guys are snickering, but you know what? It does happen, right? Those things most of those things I'll say are really good to have. They're incredible attributes to have in your organization. The number one reason to do DevOps, the ultimate objective, the end game, is to delight your customers and deliver an absolutely amazing experience. Just think about it. If you could have all the software you could possibly imagine, and the quality was stellar and perfect, and the speed of deploying that was absolutely lightning, and no one used it. It didn't solve a problem. It didn't meet a need. Well, I think we got a definition for that in our industry, and it's called shelfware. We don't need any more shelfware. Companies like Digital Bank of Singapore absolutely get great customer experience when they want to make banking joyful. Aetna talks about changing the face of healthcare. That's pretty impactful. But when I read a note not too long ago that Gartner published on if you're not doing customer experience, you're not doing DevOps, what they concluded was 5% of all businesses have customers at the center of their DevOps strategy. Only 5%. And I absolutely believe that those are the customers and those are the businesses that are going to win in their markets, beat the competition, and consistently be market leaders. Let's talk a little bit about what customers want. Pretty simply put, they want you to do business their way. Kind of surprising, but they want what they want, when they want it, and how they want it. It's kind of like my teenage daughters, right? But in all seriousness, the model has simply flipped. And the reason it's flipped is because of the application economy, because of the power of software. In other words, customers no longer come to you, but increasingly, your business needs to go to them. Mike talked about some of the examples in his last session with Uber and taxis. Amazon totally gets this in the way they compete with Walmart. And if you just look at the mobile banking industry and what it's doing to traditional banking, it has a complete chance to disrupt it. Lloyd's understands this. Not too long ago, they talked about closing 200 branches and taking the savings and plowing that into mobile technology, simply because of a few different facts. First off, over the last year, 40% of all banking customers that changed banks, changed allegiances, did so because of a lack of online goods and services. And they also understand that 58% of all banking customers don't use a mobile application, but that number is falling dramatically. And that tends to lead rise to more new services like Dwolla. Dwolla, if you don't know about them, they're displacing ACH, Automated Clearinghouse, that's been in place forever, so when you deposit a check, you got to wait 2 to 5 days before your money's available. No longer with Dwolla. Pretty simple API, you call it, and your funds are immediately available. So this is what customers want. Low friction, high fidelity services that are increasingly digital. You know what? And the numbers totally bear this out. And I don't care what industry you're in, more and more of your interactions with customers are absolutely going to be through applications. Digital strategies and digital technologies are going to continue to shape your value chain. In other words, the time from an idea or an opportunity to something being placed in your customer's hands. And the stats in front of us simply show that's where your customers are, on the internet with mobile. And I'd like you to think about this as essentially a digital mall, or the place where your customers shop. Taking a little bit of a deeper look at this, customers are shopping 54% of the time. When we look at applications on smartphones in more detail, we find that the average user has 26 applications on their mobile phone. And those 26 applications on average, that number hasn't changed in the last 2 years. But what has changed is the amount of time people are spending on those core applications. It's gone up almost 40% in that same time window. Now, that group of 26 doesn't stay static. 39% of users are basically saying they're getting rid of applications because they're absolutely useless. 75% simply abandon applications and don't use it anymore, and just kind of hangs around a little bit as junk. Pretty amazing stuff. But when you think about it, those 26 apps, that's your storefront. Increasingly, that's your business. That's the core to what you do and the top way that customers interact with your brand. You know, and there's no industry that's absolved from this. Forrester, not too long ago, did a study on the state of digital business. And here's what they concluded. Virtually every executive in all the industry segments they surveyed believed their industry segment has a chance to be substantially digitally disrupted in the next 12 months. And the top industries to be impacted: insurance, financial services, government, and remarkably, education. Let me tell you a little bit of a story. I have a daughter, Samantha. I feel like I'm parroting Mike's presentation, by the way. I have a daughter, Samantha, 22 years old. She's in a graduate program at a place called Southern New Hampshire University. She's studying to become a special ed teacher. Now, Southern New Hampshire is about 25 or 30 miles from my house. And until she applied, I really didn't know much about it. But here's what I found out. Pretty interesting story. In 2003, Southern New Hampshire University, in the midst of a recession, had spiraling costs, decaying facilities, and declining enrollment. And as best I can tell at that point, they had a going out of business model that they were executing really well. And they hired a new president at that point. His name's Paul LeBlanc. And he looked at the problem and said, standard route simply isn't going to work. We need a different way. So what he did is he tapped into the underserved market of non-traditional students, and he created this thing called the College of Online and Continuing Education. And right now, today, in 2015, there are 25,000 students in that program. It spans 36 states, generates over $200 million in revenue with double-digit profits. And the coolest part about it is the cost of an education through that program is 1/3 that of a traditional bricks and mortar education. Pretty heady stuff. Back to Samantha and her program. She's also benefiting. Half of her classes are traditional lecture lab, but the other half are now online, giving her a very cost-effective education. And the Southern New Hampshire community as a whole has benefited from this as well. They've rebuilt their facilities, they've got increasing enrollment on their core campus, and they're holding costs in check really, really well. Guys, and this is just the beginning. It's going to get crazier. Mercedes F-15 luxury car. Actually, they refer to it more as a luxury lounge, and it has every conceivable bell and whistle. All the multimedia you want, nice cushy seats, brains to go reroute and avoid traffic so you can get to your destination faster. But here's the most important part of it. It drives itself. Can you imagine? It drives itself. You know, and I started looking at this and I said, well, hang on. You know, that's science fiction, kind of like we were talking about in the last session. But it really isn't, because Mercedes in their high-end automobiles right now has a technology called Distronic. So when the car's in cruise control, it'll adapt the speed so it stays at a safe distance from the vehicle in front of it. Tesla, hands-free option for any of you guys who are Tesla geeks, right? Very cool stuff. And the automobile industry as a whole is investing over $1 billion annually in driverless technology. So you can imagine the impact just to your vehicles, but then let's also look at what I would call the collateral damage. Think about the trucking industry. Driverless caravans delivering goods and services faster, safer, and at lower cost. No labor involved, nice and safe. Or here's an even better one. I think most of you guys probably have to write a nice check to an auto insurance agency every year. That industry, $220 billion. You know what? Driverless cars, you take out human error, now become accident-free cars. Disruption has the opportunity to annihilate a $220 billion industry. Amazing. I think the mandate's clear. Transformation is an absolute must. And the way you're going to go about it, the way we're all going about it, the way we're going about it at CA is pretty simple. We're refocusing and reframing our lens to solve problems in new ways. We're tapping into the unmet and underserved needs of our customers. Let me give you another example. Country of Estonia. Baltic state, 1991, received their independence from the Soviet Union. At the time, Estonia, 50% of its residents had telephones. That's it, 50%. And the only link to the outside world was there was a mobile phone locked away in the finance minister's office. That was it. And what Estonia ended up doing is rather than taking the traditional route of big loans and implementing generation-old infrastructure, they invested in technology, particularly the internet and the browser. And as a result, they invented the code that became Skype. Some of you may be aware of that company. It's sold to eBay for $2.6 billion. In 2007, Estonia became the first country in the world to have a fully online election. Its residents pay for their parking with their cell phones and their mobile phones, and all of their healthcare records are sitting up somewhere in the cloud. But the thing I loved most when I read this story about Estonia was 95% of their residents pay their income taxes online, and they complete them in 5 minutes. Can you imagine 5 minutes? I can't get my TurboTax password back in less than 5 minutes. That's pretty impressive stuff. And when President Thomas Hendrik was asked about it, here's what he said. We didn't have to get rid of legacy technology. Frankly, we didn't have any. But we had to shed legacy thinking. And as a result, today, Estonia has the most connected country in the world. There are more startups in Estonia per citizen than any place else in the globe, and they're considered to be the absolute model for e-government, totally transforming time and time again. So it doesn't matter, guys, if you're Southern New Hampshire University, if you're Estonia or in any other market, you need to be constantly reinventing yourself to meet the needs of your customers, of your users, and of your citizens. So here's the big question. When you're spending time back at your office, are you adding customer value? Pretty simple. How much time are you spending figuring out how to delight your customers? Seems like a pretty simple value proposition. Come up with a very simple, repeatable way to generate profitable business, tapping into your customers' needs. But as an IT industry, this is where we really struggle. We spend time on internal processes, structures, and metrics. Which leads us to the most critical question of this whole talk. What does DevOps do for you? How can it help? Why would we do it? Well, the answer is pretty simple. What DevOps does is it makes speed, reliability, and efficiency absolute givens so you can spend more of your time focusing on innovation. That's the power of DevOps. And you know what? DevOps is a journey. I think everyone understands that. Started with waterfall development and got to agile development. It's entirely focused on generating new, meaningful software on a frequent basis, all with delighting customers in mind. As you all know, DevOps, we simply add the rest of the IT organization and add ops. But it's a stop on the journey to be able to get to the lean business or the agile enterprise, when every single function in your company is focused on optimizing that value chain, legal, support, marketing, and sales. Now, to get there, lots of things have to change. Technology in and of itself won't cut it. People need to change. Roles need to change. Mindsets go away. New cultures emerge. Processes need to adjust and continually get better, and new technologies need to continually be absorbed. Now, a number of different capabilities need to put in place, but most important, what DevOps actually does done properly is decrease the distance between idea and customer. And a few of the capabilities that are absolutely critical are continuous cadence of planning. Simply because customers and markets are fickle and we need to reprioritize all the time. Tool sets need to be adaptive and absorb new technologies quickly because you don't have time in your day to manage the management software. And if we don't have great user insight, because users use applications in strange ways and unanticipated ways, we're not going to be able to course correct. And when it gets right down to it, the way that we measure business fundamentally has to change. There are two measures that matter. One is throughput, number of code turns, lead time from the end of development to software being put in production, number of successful deployments. On the other side, important customer measures, number of application activations, transactions completed, revenue per application instance, or net promoter score. Those are the measures of DevOps, those are the measures of the application economy. Now, when the customer gets to the center, and we really focus on that value chain, pretty amazing things start to happen in organizations. First, we see the emergence of self-directed teams that have a mandate for holistically solving customer problems, owning the problem entirely, making the decisions themselves. And new roles emerge. We hear about Scrum Masters and product owners and release train engineers. Old organizational structures totally go by the wayside. We've got customers here that have totally changed the way they organize their IT organization. They simply have dev engineers that are responsible for the content and the innovation of an app on the exact same team as the ops engineers that are responsible for the deployment of that application and that application availability. Just simply iterating together on a daily basis. There's a lot of work going on right now to eliminate frontline support, level 1 support. Not so a company can save money, but simply because when there's a problem, the company or the business or the customer has an opportunity to go right to the source and get that problem solved quicker. This is what happens with DevOps when your culture changes. In the area of process, I don't think anyone in this room is surprised that 85% of all businesses have invested in agile methods and technology. But think of the implication. It's totally increased the velocity at which code has been created, and that causes operations teams to change their process as well. It can't be sequential, it can't be slow, it has to be adaptive so that operations teams can plan, provision, and continually adapt to ensure maximum application availability. All to the benefit of the customer. And organizations that do this well end up having code turns 30 times that of their peers. And even more remarkably, with all of the speed that's going on in this totally dynamic, iterative environment, 60 times fewer defects. Pretty amazing stuff. So if that isn't enough, while your culture's changing, while your process is changing, there's this small thing of changes in technology. Platform as a service, containers, software-defined networks. And a number of you right now are experimenting with those technologies, figuring out how to implement them, and trying to think through how to best benefit from them. And when they get tied together with your existing data center, that lends rise to this new thing called bimodal IT. And we believe, I totally believe, that's where the majority of businesses are going to be for the foreseeable future. And think about the approach that we're doing with IT in that model. Siloed tools don't work. They're not broad enough. Traditional tools fall by the wayside. So let me talk about some of the things we've been doing in our operation, in our Agile operations teams to solve these problems. Over the last year, we've expanded mobile app analytics. so that we get better visibility in the value chain. Application Performance Management this summer just had a groundbreaking release with an entirely new user interface, allowing frontline people to quickly diagnose problems and decrease mean time to repair. And oh, by the way, it now integrates with our Unified Infrastructure Management product. So we can quickly deduce whether a problem or an opportunity is sitting in the application topology or it's in the underlying infrastructure. UIM has also increased its scope, now supporting mainframes or System Z. So we can do complete mobile to mainframe monitoring across traditional structures as well as cloud structures. And here at CA World, we've got a new product that we're talking about out on the floor, Virtual Network Assurance, the first of its kind. And what it does is it allows users to manage and monitor software-defined networks along with physical networks. Pretty heady stuff. You know, that's simply Agile operations, but I'd like to go now to continuous delivery, because that's where the rubber hits the road. That's where the throughput happens, and this is where the application economy really comes to life. This is where DevOps goes. But this area is just a minefield of challenges for everybody. Developer deadlocks, interdependent teams all waiting for each other. And when that's not the problem, integration environments aren't available, or they're not realistic. It takes too long to build those environments. Organizations don't want to mimic production environments because of costs for hardware and software. Moving down the stack, the number one inhibitor to DevOps exceptional performance or Agile exceptional performance is test. Testing continues to lag behind software creation. It often is done manually, and it's definitely done too late in the process. Moving down the stack even more, remember those self-directed work teams? Well, guess what they're doing every day? They're out finding some open source and adding some more tools to the stack. And all those tools don't hang together, often creating holes in governance, delays in development process, traceability goes out the door, and oh, by the way, even worse, version mismatches, build problems, all resulting in, you guessed it, bad customer experience. So here's what we've been doing about it. Crazy slides, right? First thing, Agile Consulting. Our Agile consultants right now are sitting over in the Agile Transformation Zone, and they'd love to talk to you. And here's what they do. They set your organization up for success. They help you get the right people in the right roles, in the right places. In addition to that, they set you on the journey of cultural change and continuous improvement, which is absolutely a prerequisite to being successful in DevOps. Turning over to products, we've totally expanded our API management offerings, built out our test portfolio, and continue to invest heavily in release automation. Let's cruise through that. API management, no longer API management. We've got a new product that we're announcing here, Live API Creator, which unlocks the power of data by quickly creating APIs on top of your databases, making access seamless and available to every application. We've extended our mobile SDK so that developers don't have to worry about things like security, persistence, or session management, and they can entirely focus on innovation. Moving down the stack, when we tie that together with service virtualization, there's always a great place to go and run these APIs that are being created at an increasing volume. We also have a new Sas Portal, allowing you to publish, get going, search for APIs, maximize reuse, and get started just like that. And last but not least, we continue to invest in our industry-leading gateway, moving us simply from management to full lifecycle capability and accelerating the pace at which software is created. Our test approach is pretty simple. First, we automate the automation. Make the test creation go as fast as the application software creation. We have two products that do that. Test Case Optimizer on the glass, Continuous App Insight, that's for under the glass. Once you got the test, now you need the data to go and run them. Test data management comes into play, and what that does is it combines production data with synthetic data to maximize your efficiency and your coverage, all the while masking sensitive data. Now we got the test, we got the data, we simply need a place to run it, and that's where service virtualization comes in. In the area of deployment, we continue to add to the hundreds of integrations that we have with our release automation and application lifecycle conductor products. This year, adding things like deeper support for Puppet and Chef recipes. We've also added container support. So instead of having to manage individual artifacts now, you can take an entire container and deploy that. All with the same great throughput that you get in Visual Design Center that we've put in our tools traditionally. And oh, by the way, we have integration with our application performance management technology, so in the rare event that your deployment goes south or there's an issue, we can quickly go back to the root cause and the code that's actually changed, solve the problem, and move on. That's the power of our portfolio coming together. You know, rather than me just talking about things one-off or as products and capabilities, I'd like to go a little bit more into some real results. Mike talked a little bit about ING at the last session. ING knew they had to get more competitive in their market, and that meant having more applications going out at a greater pace. And while he told you about the number of code deployments per month, what he didn't tell you is they're getting really close to jumping that number up to 50,000 a month. They've doubled the number of consumer-facing applications that are in production. And oh, by the way, they've achieved probably the most important thing, a 4-star plus rating in the App Store as voted by their customers. Pretty impressive stuff. ICE Mobile, they deliver loyalty programs for retail. They had a very rigid interface, make it really hard to take on new business. And what they decided to do was invest in CA API management. And as a result, they've been able to cut development times and new integrations from 16 weeks down to under 8 weeks. In addition to that, because of the embedded security in the model, they were able to give up having dedicated lines and use the public internet. So they drove more business and decreased cost all in one shot. Nordstrom. Nordstrom had a goal of delivering the same great online experience that they're known for in their stores. And when they embarked on the journey from going from waterfall development to agile development, one of the first stops they made was to get CA service virtualization. Cut their development cycles by 66%, saved $800,000 per development turn. And right now they're also implementing test data management, and they believe their test environment and test data setup is going to decrease as much as 75%. Real companies getting absolutely real results. So guys, I hope it's pretty clear to you. We are super passionate about DevOps. We've blown out our portfolio in a big way, and we're going to continue to invest. And you know what? You should too. This is a great space to be in, and here's why. We recently conducted a study with Vance and Bourne who said that DevOps leaders generate revenue at 106% above what their peers are doing with 68% greater profit margin. Real results, going straight to the bottom line. So guys, disruption, it's going to happen. It's going to happen at increasing velocity and increasing magnitude. No one's going to be absolved from it. What you need is a partner who has the products, the portfolio, the scale and the approach so that you can make speed, reliability, and efficiency become given, focus totally on innovation, and become the next great digital disruptor. Thank you. All right, I would like to now invite our product marketing rock star, Aruna Ravichandran, up to the stage to help us hand out a couple of awards. Aruna?
Great. Thank you, everyone. I'm Aruna Ravichandran. I'm the Vice President of Marketing for all of the DevOps products. It's here at CA. We now want to invite some of our key customers on stage. We have these VIP awards where we recognize our customers on implementing CA technology products and achieving outstanding results as a result of using our technology. So the very first person I would like to invite on stage is the Desjardins group. I would like to have Walter Kerner on stage. Desjardins is being founded in 1900, and they are one of the largest credit unions across the world. They have achieved amazing success using our technology in their DevOps journey.
Thank you.
Next, I would like to invite Nordstorm, Irina, as well as Susan on stage. Nordstorm has actually implemented service virtualization, test data management, and have integrated with CA's Cloud Test. And they have again achieved amazing success using our products by being able to improve the time to market, being able to get outstanding quality as a result of using accurate data using test data management. Lastly, I would like to invite Rama Badapalli on stage from Ameriprise Financial, who again have achieved amazing results as a result of using our technology. They were able to improve their cycle times tremendously. They were able to reduce their support cycle and being able to implement our technology.
Congratulations.
So with that, I would like to thank all of you for attending the DevOps sessions. We have a lot of the other booth areas over there where you'll have an opportunity to actually get a glimpse of all the different technologies Mike actually talked about. We're announcing 5 different new products, bringing it to market around API management, around service virtualization, which is now going to be available on the Azure platform. And we also have the opportunity to go into the Agile operations booth, because DevOps has got a multitude of products across both the dev as well as the ops space. And so you'll have an opportunity to go to the multiple different booth areas in order to actually experience our products. Thank you.